Good morning, everybody. My name is Marqueece Harris-Dawson. I'm a member of the Los Angeles City Council. I represent the area that we're in now at the Great Algin Sutton Park. We're here today to acknowledge and encourage the folks that have been involved in a great program that we launched here in South LA over a year ago. It is the South Los Angeles Community Safety Initiative. It is a group of community workers, gang intervention workers, our parks, our local elected officials, all coming together to confront community violence and crime in the community in a way that is different than the traditional way. The traditional way says you send in a bunch of officers and they may station in different places in the community, but a lot of times the community is left out of those decisions. And so the Community Safety Initiatives involves community members from, again, mental health workers to everyday community members to folks who work in parks to gang interventionists. And so I want to begin our discussion today with my colleague on the LA City Council. A year ago, when we saw a very slight but serious uptick in violent crime in our community, we circled the wagons inside City Hall and got together to come up with this program. I want to bring to the mic right now our own council member, Herb Wesson, representing the 10th Council District.
Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here. And if you hear me cough, know that I've been tested, that it's negative, and to all of the kids, do not smoke cigars, all right? So that's where my cough comes from. It is, without a doubt, a great pleasure to serve on this council with Councilmember Harris-Dawson and Mr. Curran Price, and hopefully he'll be here a little later. We on the City Council, in the midst of demonstrations and protests, we decided that we wanted to reimagine public safety. And when we said that, I did an interview in a radio station in London. I didn't even share with you this. And so I think I'm being very innovative and creative. I'm on London radio and I'm just rattling off what we're doing. And the host says, that's just common sense. What's the big deal? It's cost effective. And it made me pause because he was absolutely correct. The program that Mr. Harris-Dawson is expanding to this part, this section of the city, will work. I guarantee it. There's a young man here today, very shy with glasses. Leon, raise your hand. 2005, in my parking lot, smoking cigars. We came up with a concept very similar, where we would use community individuals to work as community intervention workers, that we would train them, that they would program with the community. And for years, you guys have gone to a great Martin Luther King parade. What you didn't know is that we had a troop of these individuals on the ground, and that's why rarely, if ever, there was any major violence. As a kid, going to school, I would walk together with the other neighborhood kids so that we would keep each other safe, which is safe passage, which is part of this program. I wish under normal circumstances, if it weren't for the pandemic, running around wearing masks, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be at this press conference. I would be at Hanson Dam, where we would take 140 kids every year on a 3-day camping trip, where they would kayak, canoe, swim all day, mountain climb. They would ride horses, and they would interface with the police station and the police officers right down the street. Never a problem. That's where I should be right now today. And I want you to know that it makes a big difference. I was watching Mr. Harris-Dawson, the demonstrations on television, and I look and I see 2 or 3 kids that had been on the camping trip, creatively called Camp Wesson, by the way. I don't know where the genius where I came up with that creative. But I saw them interfacing with a police officer that they met at the camp, and I almost brought a tear to my eye when the 2 kids and the cop took a knee. It's about community. It's about working together. It's about using the resources that we have. So I'm so proud that Mr. Harris-Dawson is going to try to stretch this throughout the entire south side of this city, and I stand at his side to offer whatever support and guidance that I can give. So I'm just proud to be here with you today, and it's always cool to actually see people. And even though we can't hug, I give you that hug and an elbow. But this is a great program. I would have never envisioned that the entire city council is going to be having a serious conversation about creating a program like this throughout the entire city of LA. I salute you.
All right, thank you again to Councilmember Herb Wesson. Mr. Wesson is correct. The city under his that's right, thank you. Mr. Wesson is correct. The city under his leadership and with the support of many of us is considering a reimagined program. We still have weather, look at there. A reimagined program all over the city where we can look at concretely reducing community violence in a way that builds up the community, in a way that uses community assets. And I was going to refer to that right there. Let me hold it up. That produces real results and actually reduces violence. You'll see on the big board here behind me that they're now holding up real reductions, concrete reductions in violent crime. You can see over there the reaction of the folks that have been involved in the program, how much they're more involved in their community, how much safer they feel, how much more engaged they are with their neighbors. And so Councilman Wesson talked about our safe passages. We talked about our community intervention workers, which you see here and you'll hear from later. And also we have this innovative idea that came out of the community about healing circles. And healing circles are really there so that they're groups of people who meet because every time there's a shooting, every time there's a violent act in a community, it's not just trauma on the person who was the victim, it's trauma on everybody who lives around them and everybody who's involved, every family member. You know, when something happens to your sister or your uncle, you feel it too. And so these healing circles are designed to talk through that violence, to support each other, and to really focus on healing. There's a healing circle going over there on in the corner under a tree, and that's how they are. Normally people don't have on masks and they're sitting a little closer, but you can see the healing circle there. And I want to bring up the visionary who brought this program to South LA and made sure we made it a part of this initiative last summer and got dozens and dozens of people in the community involved. Dr. Cheryl Grills of Loyola Marymount University.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start my comments by speaking in the words of members of our community who have participated in these healing circles. It releases things also, things I had on me. I never paid attention to my stress level before I came here. I get a positive energy. I feel at peace. No matter what, I always feel relaxed after I come to this group. I came, I had a headache, stressed out, and it went down from 10, which is the highest score, to a 3. Yes, here I have permission to be human, to be angry. I can scream, cry, be hurt, just be myself without boundaries. I can let my hair down and be me. I don't have to play a role. I found it was easier to share than I thought. I found fellowship, sense of community, loving support where I can put stuff out there and not get judged negatively. And last comment from a circle member, I was skeptical at first. What's this? Is it going to be like other groups? But when the leader modified the group to fit us, we blew up. It lifted off. The cork was off the bottle. She wasn't like following a script like other places. If we came in with something, she'd modify the circle agenda that time to focus on what we brought up. Those are examples of the spirit of the healing circles and what these circles have been able to do for folks. Because living in a society where your life is devalued, where the resources are inadequate to meet basic human needs, where the world seems to have forgotten about you and you're not sitting at the table making decisions that affect your lives, the struggle to be is a source of stress. Just to exist is a source of stress. And the struggle for an empowered existence in a society that is infused with assumptions about your inferiority, about your criminality, about your violence proclivity is not okay. So what do we deal with here? We're talking about psychic suffocation and trauma in the midst of under-resourced communities and violence. And as Frantz Fanon, the Black psychiatrist, said, we revolt simply because for so many reasons, we can no longer breathe. I want to show you something. So everybody out here has experienced some level of stress. And if you imagine that stress as a rubber band, and you keep stretching and you stretch it and you stretch it, you stress it and you stress it, what's going to happen? Eventually, it's going to snap. It is going to break. That's what's happening in the lives of people in our community. Their lives are stressed and stretched to the max, and there's not necessarily available resources to help support the resilience and the stress management that people need. And that eventually you'll snap, you'll lash out at someone, you'll retaliate. And it's not because that is your natural state, it is because you are in the midst of unmanageable stress. And so what we have come up with these circles, and I'll end with this, is that there are 3 change processes that happen in the circles. The first is a communal process where the change mechanism is relatedness, an opportunity to be in community. And then the second component is a contemplative process where the change mechanism is awareness, where people begin to understand that the things that I'm dealing with are not natural and normal. It is not fair, and it is not necessarily my fault. And I've not been given the resources to address it, but I get blamed for everything. And then the third change process is empowerment. And the change mechanism there is agency. Now that I have a space to be in community, I have a higher level of critical consciousness and an analysis of my circumstances. And I have a group of people that I can relate to and who care about me and I care about them. Now we're going to do the work of community, where we're going to bring about the kind of healing, the kind of camaraderie and sense of community, and the kind of peace that all human beings deserve. So with that, let me just give you the definition of the healing circles as given to us by the healers themselves. Essentially, the South LA Healing Circles is a process that is led by the community. And so there's ownership. There is intergenerational connection, which means all members of the community, this is open to you. And the work of the community healing circles is to have a safe space where you can exhale, release, de-stress with tools that will help you not only in the moment of stress, but can help you in your relationships with your children, with your neighbors, with your coworkers, with the general society. The grounding component of the circles is very cultural. It's connecting to our ancestors and to our cultural roots, our cultural values and principles. And then lastly, all of this is in the service of the ultimate purpose of the circles, which is to disrupt violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Another big round of applause for Dr. Cheryl Grills. I guess that's one thing we can still do is clap for each other. So another big round of applause for Dr. Cheryl Grills and the Healing Circles, an amazing intervention that we have in our community today. I want to acknowledge a community organization that helps facilitate all this work and has done it for more than a generation here. We're joined by their director and leader, Mr. Robert Salcedo. A big round of applause for Community Build. I want to acknowledge them, and I want to call up Leon Gillette, who helped lead out our community intervention workers and our Safe Passages program. A lot of times in the news and in the community public discussion, they say, well, if you don't have police respond to everything, who's going to respond? And I want everybody to know that the community intervention workers have been responding to community issues for years now. And now is an opportunity to recognize them, to fund them and resource them, and to make their role more official and highlighted in our community. And so without anything further, Mr. Leon Gillette.
Good morning. My name is Leon Gillette. I'm the VP of Intervention Services at Community Build. I've been fortunate enough to be around this work for about 28 years, since the 1992 gang truce. And it's been very helpful for me being around and being able to be a mentor to some of the up and coming people within the community. Community Build is very proud to be a partner in this and making this stuff happen in the community because it's really needed in our community. And my hat's off to the councilmen who stepped up to the plate and understanding how bad this stuff was needed within our community. The goal of the Safe Passage program is to prevent and to disrupt gang violence that happened within the park or within the geographical area around the park. And so that's the goal of our Safe Passage program, and trying to make sure it's safe in our community for our kids and our families to come here and to be able to enjoy themselves without having to be worried the way our community worries now. The key to the Safe Passage program is to have partners. And I have partners with green shirts out throughout 13 parks throughout this community that over the years I've been doing this work, I've been able to establish relationships with, and folks who have the heart to do the work, and folks that's out there really doing the work, and the folks that's really trying to stop the violence in our community. So for the most part, that's kind of my spiel. And I just want to thank my partners who go out there and really put the work in, who make it safe within our communities, and do what they do. Thank you.
All right, Leon, very quickly, I want to call to the stage a community resident who lives walking distance from this park. These are the folks that when there are upticks in violence, it really impacts their lives because while they might not be a direct victim, it causes a concern about being in the general neighborhood. And so we engage neighbors in what they wanted to see in the community and what kind of interventions they want. And she stepped to the plate as she always does, our own Maria Rutledge. Come on up, Ms. Rutledge.
Thank you, Marqueece. I appreciate you. Hi, my name is Maria Isabel Rutledge. I'm 67 years old, and I've lived in this area for 60 years. And I moved back in this community when my parents got sick, and I decided, that I was going to stay after the riots because I found the Community Coalition where I met Marqueece, and I'm so grateful for it because we felt like there was no hope, after the riots. I live right here a few blocks away. The fires were right there. And I tell everybody, well, all that stuff was trash. It needed to be burned. We had been abandoned for 10 years prior and no investment at all in our community. I look at this park after Marqueece Harris-Dawson is here and the Community Coalition in giving the community members a way out of this abuse, this literal abuse of our communities and neglect. And so it has empowered us. I am very grateful that this safety initiative is being brought to this park. And we as a community are willing to do everything we can to be part of it, because it's not that we don't care, it's that we have been left out of anything that has to do with having a life of dignity and respect. And that's just not right. We, people of color, are people with lots to offer, and we put in a lot, but we don't get much back. And I'm very happy that we're going to be able to use this park without gangs, without all the homeless here. The homeless, thank God, are being helped in this COVID-19 time. So I really want to express my thanks and appreciation to this time that the Lord has brought. This COVID-19 has brought lots of changes to the world. And this is a positive change for us here. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Rutledge. As you will see on this board behind me, the parks in the community serve as the base for, I always forget, the parks in this community serve as the base for our safety initiative. And so whether it's the healing circles, the intervention workers, or the safe passages, the parks are where everybody convenes and goes out to do their community work. I'm very proud today that we have the director of Rec and Parks who stepped up and said, absolutely, we want our parks to help facilitate this work. This is really what parks mean, and this is what parks are at their best in our city. The director of Rec and Parks for the city of Los Angeles, Mr. Mike Shull. Go all the way.
Councilmember Wesson never lets me forget the day I wore shorts to a press conference, but I thought about it today thinking that he was going to be here. But anyway, proud to be here. I'm the general manager for the City of LA Department of Recreation and Parks. Really proud to stand with Councilmember Dawson and Councilmember Wesson today and all the members of the community on this really, really important initiative. It's a partnership with us here in the park system. And we want to be partners with the community. Our parks should be safe. They should be a safe place for the local communities to come. They should provide safe passage, and that should be for every park in South Los Angeles and every park throughout the city. I think it starts with a number of things. It starts, number one, with our community involvement and making sure that we're connected with our local community, and that's through our recreation staff and our maintenance staff. But it also starts with making sure that we're putting investment into our parks and making sure that they're clean and that they're safe and that they're well lit and that the community feels welcome and wanting to come to the local park. We've had a lot of investment here with our partnership with Councilmember Dawson and a brand new swimming pool that's hopefully going to open soon with everything that's going on. But the partnerships with our local sports organization, the LA Dodgers and others, we've put a lot of investment into this park. But it doesn't stop here. It needs to continue. But it also continues with our staff and our recreation staff and our maintenance staff, and a number of them are here today where you might notice some kids in the background. We've started a Summer Play LA program. It's a summer camp program for kids. It's free here at Elgin Sutton. Our programs need to be affordable. That's a big part of working inside of our communities, is making sure that they're affordable and making sure that we're offering programs that the community wants and needs. I think every community has a cultural diversity to it here in Los Angeles, and we need to make sure that our programs represent that diversity. But we are offering summer camp here, again, free of charge, and around the city at 46 sites. But I wanted to rattle off a few names just because they're doing, the recreation and park staff around the city are doing an incredible job, whether it's operating shelters for our most vulnerable population or now running summer camps. But I want to start with Deanna Tunstall, the director here. I don't know where Deanna, I thought she was wandering around. She's probably busy with the camp. But also want to recognize Aaron, Lilybeth, Armando, Sheikha, Frank, Latanya, Martha, Chanel, and Demetra, as well as our maintenance staff. I see Gilbert here and Raul and other maintenance staff here. It's really, really important that the community gets to know all of our staff, because with that partnership, there's really nothing we can't do together. And we need to have that trust with one another, be able to bring problems to our staff so that we can help resolve them quickly. Very, very proud to be here today and proud to stand with all of our council members and elected officials and the community members today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. So that concludes our program for today. I want to thank everybody who's been involved with the program. Thanks, folks, for coming out this morning, and thank all of you to the members of the press for covering this. This is what we believe is good news in the city of Los Angeles, and so we want to make sure to acknowledge the people who acknowledge that good news. And so with that, we'll conclude our program unless there's any questions or discussions for anybody who spoke. The police department has responded well to the initiative. They work closely with the gang intervention workers, they work closely with the safe passages, and they work closely with our parks.
Do you want some of the money that's now being used for LAPD to go into programs like this?
Well, you know, I think we want to reimagine everything, and I think where it makes sense for there to be more resources, this is a place where we believe there is. We think there are places where there ought to be more resources and places where there ought to be less. And so the answer to your question is absolutely yes. This is an investment that we think demonstrates success and is a worthy investment by the city of Los Angeles. All right, thank you, everybody.